Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our SHI Golden Ticket event. Can you all hear me? I don't see many cameras on. Feel free to turn your camera on, join the session here. We're excited to connect with you all. I appreciate your patience. I know there was, of course, some tech issues, Zoom updates, things of that sort, but we'll go ahead and get started. So my name is Michelle St. George. I'm the Associate Director for Industry Development within the Office of Career Exploration and Success. And so I want to welcome you all here today, this afternoon. We're going to have a great panel discussion from our friends over at SHI. And so we have a great partnership with SHI and truly value that relationship between SHI and Rutgers. And so, as I mentioned, they have a great panel set up for you today. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to Denise and we can get things started.
Thank you so much. So I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen. And what I'd like to do, if it's okay with everybody, is just introduce myself, give a little bit of background on SHI, and then I'm going to turn it over to the other wonderful women on the panel today to just introduce themselves. And then what we're going to do is just kind of go through a series of, moderated questions and have a little bit of a conversation. Happy to answer any questions. So if you want to just throw those in the chat, I think that's an appropriate way for you guys to ask whatever you might want to ask of us. So thank you very much for inviting us to the session today. We're all really excited. You may know us from your football stadium. That's the brand name, I think, how most people know SHI. I, Denise Verdicchio, proud Rutgers graduate, graduated in the class of 1995. I am the Senior Vice President of SHI's Public Sector Business Unit. So just a little history about me, and then I'll go into a little bit about SHI. So I did start SHI 2 days after graduating Rutgers College at the time. And I am now a proud mom of 2 dogs and 2 teenagers, both going to be in college in September. And I've worked for SHI for 25 years. I love to read. I love to swim. I love to exercise, hike, all of those kinds of things. And I really put a lot of emphasis in my organization on work-life balance. And I take that very seriously, as well as wellness, self-care, community giving, things like that. So that's a little bit about me, a little bit about SHI. So aside from just being on the football stadium there at Rutgers, we are an IT solutions provider. What does that mean? That means that our customers come to us to sort of get a handle on all of the IT projects that they have to achieve the business objectives and outcomes that they're trying to achieve. So there are a lot of IT providers out there. There's OEMs, original equipment manufacturers like Lenovo, HP, Apple, the ones that you're all familiar with. And there's a lot of software publishers, both in the cloud and still on-prem, like Microsoft software, Adobe software, and on and on and on. So instead of the customers having to go out and form all individual relationships with these individual publishers and bring them all to the table to accomplish an IT project, they come to a reseller or a solution provider like SHI, and we navigate that space for them. What the panel here consists of today is women who are all in the public sector business unit. So our customers are all of the higher education institutes across America, all K-12s, state government, local government, healthcare, and federal. So it's quite a big customer reach that we have. SHI as a whole is an $11 billion company. The public sector business unit that I run and that these women are a part of is $3 billion. So it's no small task. We have a lot of work every single day. SHI is the largest woman-owned, minority-owned company in the country, and we are privately held. And it has been a joy working for a woman-owned company for 25 years. And then the last thing I'll just say, and I don't want to get too in the weeds about SHI because we'll talk a little bit more about SHI as we get through the conversation. But people ask me all of the time why I have chosen to stay at SHI for 25 years. And there's a lot of answers to that. I mean, when I first started out of college, we were a small company and we had so much fun. Like we just had fun upon fun upon fun. And then the opportunities started to come my way to be very flexible and empowered in my thinking and what I was able to accomplish. In terms of earnings, it's always been really good for me. And then of course, upward career movement, which I was interested in, it really happened nicely for me. So I started in inside account manager position, which is like a customer service, pretty much, not really any direct outbound sales. Moved into a little bit of an HR role for a while, explored that, and then went into an outside sales role, a direct field selling role. And then I moved into management and up to the senior vice president position. So I've had a really enjoyable, empowered career here at SHI. Ty lets me use all the people around me to collaborate and come up with some wonderful, innovative ideas, try new things. We're allowed to fail at least a certain number of times. And that all of that has spoken to me tremendously over my career. And so although I may be able to go to a company where I'm very marketable, maybe there's stock options and things like that, to me, that was never the important things for me. The important thing was culture. The important thing was my development as a person and as an employee, and of course, stability, which SHI has always provided. So I'm going to pause myself there. We'll go into some more detail about SHI, like I said, but I'd love to turn it over to my panel for introductions. So Jess, do you want to start?
Sure. Thanks, Denise.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for giving us your time today. So my name is Jess Crincoli. I am a senior manager supporting one of our public sector inside-led sales teams. And I'm really excited to see so many women here that are potentially interested in pursuing a career in sales. I'd like to use my time to talk a little bit about my journey, how I got to where I am today in a senior leadership role, and what opportunities are here for you at SHI as you start your professional career. So I started SHI in 2010. It was a referral from my brother-in-law who was working here at the time. And I was really looking for, a career opportunity. I had graduated a few years beforehand. It was not that I came to SHI directly from college, but I did have my degree in education. So I was teaching social studies for middle school students while I was also working part-time in an office. I worked all throughout college. So I found that I had kind of just hit a dead end with teaching. It was time for me to make a change. And for me, that change was really scary. I had spent several years just working to find really just like the right place to teach. And then, when that didn't happen, I was pretty unsure like what I should do, where should I go, with my career. But I ultimately did decide teaching was not the right path for me. But I didn't really have any other experience to help me decide what it was that I wanted to do with, the rest of my life. So when I thought about SHI and what my brother-in-law sort of told me, I thought, I'm definitely not a tech expert and I don't want to do sales. So I think it was, the stigma of sales as a young woman was very scary to me. At the time, I thought to myself, like, this just isn't me, sales isn't me. But I was not really well educated at the time when it came to, what does it really mean to be in a sales position? My father was a police officer, my mother, stay-at-home mom, sister, a teacher. No one in my family was ever in sales. None of my friends left college and went into sales. So coming from a classroom and trying to move into a boardroom, it was definitely intimidating. But for me, over a short period of time, I learned so much, and not just about, IT sales in particular, but about myself personally. So I found over the years, sales actually is very much like is me. Sales is an empowering career. It helps to build your confidence level. It helps you to become a better communicator. And I will say, I will be very honest, at times it is going to force you into some uncomfortable situations. But that's what's great, because without those situations, you don't move forward. You don't progress in life. When I started, I was supporting a field sales rep. So similar to Denise, I was doing more of like a customer service situation, supporting the field seller. But during that time, I was able to learn a lot of life skills that helped me as I took my second role at SHI, which was a sales trainer for the department when we first launched. I think from there is when my career, really took off. I learned such a great deal from my mentor, who is now my current boss. And it's because he spent a great deal of time with me while I was the trainer and helped to coach and develop me. And that's what we as leaders do, day in and day out. As a sales trainer, I definitely wanted to prove myself not only to my boss, but more so prove to myself that I could move into a new challenge as a true salesperson, as a sales leader, and manage a team, which here we are. And I've been doing this leadership role now for over 6 years. But to that point, it just shows that hard work is recognized, and that sometimes you just need to take a leap of faith and give something scary a try. And I tell you my story because SHI has so many growth opportunities, and I think it's important for young women to just really explore sales and show the world that women are a huge asset to the industry. There's so many invaluable skill sets that you will learn in sales at SHI. So if you are driven and determined, self-motivated, which I am very confident that you all are, I would love to see you join SHI. So thank you for your time today, and I wish you all the very best of luck.
Thanks, Jess. That was awesome. And you hit on a lot of themes that we'll get into with our questions as well. Mandy, do you want to go next?
Sure. Hello, everybody. I'm Mandy Calamano. Thank you so much for being here today. It's nice to see you all. My career path to SHI is a little bit different than most. I was born and raised in Littleton, Colorado. I went to the University of Denver. I was a communications major with a public relations emphasis and a minor in business. It's a mouthful. And my whole plan was to be the head of PR for the Denver Broncos. Clearly, that did not pan out. When I figured out that you couldn't make any money doing PR for a big company like the Broncos, and like it would take forever to get to the top, I piddled around and jumped from a couple different jobs. One was doing customer service for a telecommunications company. Another one was selling like really high-end bedding in this really froofy store. And I really had no direction, and I wasn't sure what it was I was going to do. And then I found an ad in my sorority newsletter that they needed a house mom at Rutgers campus. And so on a whim, I moved to New Jersey, and I moved into the DG house, and I was 25 years old, going to like living with college women. It was nuts. And I was also bartending in New Brunswick on the side. So at some point it was like, okay, what am I going to do? I can't stay 25, 26 and like live like I'm in college forever. So I reached out to a recruiter. She got me to SHI, and my plan was to work there for a year. That was 16 years ago.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'll stay for a year and I'll figure it out. Well, 1 year turned into 2. And I still wasn't sure what I wanted to do, but I definitely loved the SHI culture. I really like the people that I work with. A lot of them I still talk to today. So after I worked a couple years as a customer service rep at SHI, I got promoted, and I was supporting California higher education accounts from our New Jersey office. I did that for 6 years, and that was very scary to me. I was handed a contract for a big conglomerate university system, and I was like, okay, this has to be good. This has to go well, and you're 26, make it happen. And I was like, okay. So the only sales experience I had was watching my mom be in sales. She was a car salesman, but not a gross one like you're thinking. But she worked all the time, and she missed stuff that I wanted her to be at. And I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to do this. I'm just going to do it. I'm going to see what happens. So I did that for 6 years. It worked out really well. I changed over and did New York City higher education accounts after the birth of my daughter. Denise was actually my manager at that point, so I learned a great deal from her as a mentor, and I think it set me up to actually come into this role a couple years later when the opportunity arose. So for the last 5 years, I've been the manager for one of our public sector inside regions. I think it's come with a lot of challenges, right? Being a first-time manager, understanding how all that's going to work, really understanding how to manage people as opposed to being able to run your own business the way you want without asking anybody any questions is a learning curve. But I think it's made me a much more well-rounded person. And I would say that, 15 years later, I feel like I really have found home with this SHI family. I'm very excited and I'm looking forward to what is still to come in my career. I feel like I still have a long way to go. So I hope that you all will take that leap of faith and come see what we have to offer.
Thank you, Mandy. All right, Des, you're up, and I'm going to encourage you to be fast.
Yes, I will be quick as I can. Can everyone hear me all right?
You can.
All right, so hi everyone. Thanks so much for having us. I'm really excited to be able to speak to you all today. So my name is Sulik. I've been working here at SHI for 6 years. I started off in inside sales and I was promoted to a district manager, and I currently manage a team of 10 sellers. So 6 years ago, I was at a crossroads in my career path. I graduated from Montclair State University with a liberal arts degree and a focus on fashion studies. And I was in the fashion industry for about 10 years, and I was ready for it. So I actually grew up right down the road from Rutgers. So this school has always been home for me. And I actually went to a Rutgers career fair where I learned about SHI. So I must have went around that career booth about 3 or 4 times. And then finally the recruiter flagged me down and he said, you know, have you thought about a career in IT sales? And honestly, as a woman, I had not. I really thought about the only sales job for women would be retail or pharmaceutical. So I really had no idea what to expect when it came to IT sales, but I decided I needed to have an open mind and gave it a shot. One of the reasons I left my previous position is because I really wanted my job to mean something, and I didn't realize at the time that sales could make such a positive impact and fulfill that need for me. So I know that there are a lot of misconceptions when it comes to women in a sales career, but our goal today is not only to share our own personal experiences, but to demonstrate that this industry thrives when women get on board. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Des. That was awesome. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I'm going to say 2 more things about SHI, and then we're going to get into our panel discussion. So just a little personal share here. So I did mention, and hopefully you guys can see my screen there. I did mention that I am a proud Rutgers graduate. We have about almost 500 proud Rutgers graduates that work at SHI. And when we were, when we finalized the stadium signage, we all went, we got on a bus, all of us went, and we spent, you know, some time on the field tossing around footballs. That's what you're looking at here. Oh, can you guys see that or no? Can you see this football screen?
Yes, we can see it.
All right, awesome. So what I want to point out is we had such a good time that day. It was so much fun to be out there with everybody. But, you know, here I am right here, if you can see me, and I'm looking down, and that right there, getting bonked in the head by the sword of the Scarlet Knight, is the CEO of our company, Ty Lee, on her knees, and you could see me looking at her like, you're on your knees on the football field. What are you doing? But this right here to me kind of explains our culture. We are a culture of do-it-yourselfers. I've worked for Ty for 25 years, and really very little has changed in terms of the, you know, the culture that she has tried to create and continues to try to develop. And she's right there in it with us, you know, every single day, working hard for us so that we can remain successful. And then I thought it would be really important just to kind of share what our core values are. And these are the values that are posted sort of all over the company, although, you know, obviously we haven't been there in a little while, but as well on our page for all of our employees to see. And you'll see right there, number 1, build a culture of equality, inclusion, and diversity. We are very accountable. We thrive on accountability and integrity. We lead with integrity, not only just within our interactions internally, but also with our customers. We want to make sure that we are understanding, and we want to be sincere in our interactions with one another and our customers. We embrace change. We're very flexible. We're known in the industry as being the most agile. Part of that is because we're privately held, and part of that is because of the people that work at SHI. And we're very innovative. We want to embody innovation. We want to create new ways to do things that are better, faster, and more efficient. We are very much lean. We're resourceful and cost conscious. We don't like to spend money just to spend. We adapt, we persevere, we succeed, we grow and teach one another. Absolutely. And wellness is a huge part of our business unit here at Public Sector. And honestly, being bold, having fun, and, sort of just being professional at all times are the key core values from SHI. And so with that, I just want to start to have some discussion here with the women on the panel. And I'm going to start with you, Mandy. And I'm just, we kind of touched on some of these themes just there in the introductions, but I'm just interested to hear your take on why you think women should explore a career in IT, and specifically IT sales.
Yeah, so I think first and foremost, we've talked about it a little bit already. It's very marketable. So whether or not you decide to stick with sales and make your career being in sales, you're going to learn a lot of other skills that will benefit you in another role or in another career. You're going to gain experience working with us in an office environment. You're going to also learn crucial skills like putting together great emails, talking on the phone, communicating with your manager and with your peers, all skills that you're going to need for any job that you choose, right? I think in addition to, coming into IT sales with SHI, we offer, and we've talked about it, a career path in sales if that's what you choose. But if you decide, you know what, I do like this, but I want to explore some other avenues, we have that for you too. We have technical roles, we have support roles, we have roles with human resources, we have marketing roles. So a lot of different things that could interest you. And also, the skills that you're going to gain just being with our department out of the gate will help you in those roles as well. And then I think if you do stick with IT sales, being a woman is going to differentiate you right out of the gate. So many of the people that I interact with, customers, partners, even other people within SHI, they're men, right? So they're expecting a phone call from a man. So when they hear you, it's going to stop them in their tracks because they're not expecting a phone call from a woman. And I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing. It gives you the opportunity to get your message out, right? So as long as it's clear, it's concise, and it is important to them, which we're going to teach you all of those things, you're going to grab their attention, right? So it's almost like you have a leg up. And then, and Denise touched on it a little bit, your earning potential in this role as a salesperson is immense. We have one of the most competitive compensation packages in the industry. We have people who are earning money that I could never dream of when I was 25. So it's very lucrative if it's something that you choose to go after.
Thanks, Mandy. I just want to add a couple things. One is we are here specifically talking about IT sales because that's what we do. However, there are a lot of options for careers in IT that are not sales specific. And we offer a lot of that at SHI. So we have obviously a marketing communications department. We have a procurement department. We have a web admin department. We have human resources department. So, IT doesn't have to be all tech, and it doesn't have to be sales. There's a lot of giant range of careers that you could go into and explore. Maybe this is where you start. Maybe you go into a support role, an operations role, or something else that speaks to you. Maybe you continue on your career in sales. Maybe you start somewhere else. So I'd encourage you to kind of explore that and remain open. When you hear IT, it doesn't have to be tech and it doesn't have to be sales. But we obviously are very passionate about our sales roles. Okay, so I just want to move on, and I'm gonna switch over to Des. So Des, I'm interested to know, we all know that while we're working on changing the percentage of women that show up in the IT field, we're still sort of a little bit of a minority in this space. So how do you stay motivated? What motivates you as a woman in the IT field?
Yeah, so motivation is something that I think about every single day of my life. So hi, our CEO, and like you mentioned earlier, Denise, SHI is the largest female minority-owned company in the United States. That is huge. That alone motivates me. So the fact that Tide has opened so many doors for other women, I mean, look at the four of us, like it opened doors for us and for us to build our own careers. Also, another thing that really motivates me is I'm first generation. My parents came here with, like many other immigrants, with the shirt on their backs and one suitcase. So my mother went to work here in the United States her first week, and she built a career for herself. So Ty's story, my family story, motivate me because I need to work smarter and harder, because I know that there are many women that have been there before me who paved their way. And I know that for me as a woman, I can do that and I can visualize that success. And my advice to anyone who's looking for motivation, really take the time to think about it, be creative. You know, money motivates us all, right? We all need to make a living with money, right? But think about those who came before you and their success, and also share your motivation with your inner circle, bounce back ideas. It really is going to help you create a vision for yourself, and your inner circle is going to help you get there too.
Thank you, Des. That's awesome. Jess, I'm curious to know if you have anything to add on this question.
Yeah, I do. So, to me, I think it's important to touch on also just like, as a woman, like rising to the challenge of taking on leadership and doing something impactful in a role that is predominantly a male-based industry. And I know we touched on that a couple of times now, but really it is the fact of the matter. But at SHI, I think that we have a tremendous leadership team that consists of, many women that have done this. And I think that that's really important to kind of note. And that for me motivates me to want to continue to advance my career. Sometimes you might be the only woman on the call, but to me, that is going to motivate me to now make sure my voice is heard, because I know that I have a different perspective to bring to the table, right? Like men and women often think differently. The way their brains work sometimes think differently. So it's important both sides are getting heard, because I think at the end of the day, it's going to make everything come together. Lastly, I would just say, similar to Des, I'm like, me and my sister are the first college graduates in my family. That's motivation to me to, I mentioned my mom didn't have a job really, and looking at her and wanting to make sure that I can succeed in life. And I did that, right? Like I was able to buy a home for myself, by myself, not needing anyone else's help. I've traveled around the world. And so this job is pushed me into different limits to ensure that I can have a really, successful life.
Thanks, Jess. That's awesome. I'm going to stick with you. I want to know how you feel about like a positive impact. Do you feel that your job, your role at SHI is making a positive impact? And if so, how? What positive impact do you feel like you're putting out there?
Yeah. So for me, in my particular role, I think that, I've seen people from day one to year 6 of their career. So it's pretty amazing because, mentoring, someone on their first couple of days, like being new to sales and not really knowing how to make a phone call or what they're really doing. And then looking at them years later, that shows me like, just how far we've come, I guess, in our department specifically, and how much more we have room to grow. But, I can vividly remember call shadowing some of my reps, them being extremely nervous, which I assure you, that's completely normal. And over the years, like she's grown tremendously in her career. She's a consistent top performer, top earner in our department. And, she shines with her customers. So to me, I feel like in my role in particular, helping to mentor and helping to coach and seeing my reps succeed helps me feel like I am making a positive impact on them individually and hopefully in their careers, like progressing themselves.
I could not agree more. And by the way, that's one of the things I love about getting up to go to work every single day too. How about you? What positive impact do you feel like you've made?
Yeah, so, right now we're all leaders, and in my previous position here at SHI, I was in inside sales and I was working directly with customers, and specifically public sector customers. So I felt like I was making a positive impact to those customers directly. So, for example, I was helping local government agencies by getting them the proper IT equipment and services so that their cities were more efficient, and getting their citizens connected to the digital world. Like that is huge. Also, school districts getting devices and educational software in the hands of students and teachers really was very rewarding to me. And at the end of the day, at the end of any sale, really. I didn't walk away saying, yes, I got that sale and walked away. That's not how we operate here at SHI. We're very much involved in our customers day to day, and we build rapport and we build relationships. Their pain points are our pain points. And that's something that was very important to me. I'm a problem solver, so this job gave me the opportunity to exercise that skill. And it's just, again, like I said, it's so rewarding to be able to help out public sector customers.
There's never been a more impactful time for that than last year too. And SHI was really like sort of right there with the customers, especially in the public sector, getting devices out for kids to use for remote learning, making sure that our state governments and our local governments could still provide services to their constituents. I mean, it just really, I agree with you. It felt really impactful to be part of that in a very important time for our country. So thank you for sharing that. All right, Mandy, I'm coming back to you. So we talked a little bit about how IT doesn't have to be all tech and it doesn't have to be sales, but it does, every job kind of has a certain set of skills. So I'm just curious to know, what skills do you feel like you utilize in your day-to-day?
I feel like I use so many that are all intertwined that you can't do one without the other. So first and foremost, communication. It encompasses everything that we do, right? Talking to customers, talking to our reps, me talking to other managers, other leadership people within SHI. Me making sure that I'm clear in my messaging is going to save everybody time and everybody in frustration, right? So first and foremost, that's very important. But then you also have to stick with your time management and be able to multitask essentially a little bit. Denise just talked about 2020 being a very impactful year for our business. It was also very impactful for all of us on a personal level, right? We had to learn to do different things that we had never done before. And I can tell you, Jess, I never want to be a teacher ever. I've done first grade. I'm in the middle of second grade, and I praise my daughter's teachers up and down the river, because doing one 8-year-old is a lot. I can't imagine doing 20 or 25 at a time. So I think really taking the time to set time limits for yourself, something that I do all the time. Having patience. I have reps that are brand new, and I have reps that have been here for 6 or 7 years. So making sure that I'm mindful of who I'm speaking with and making sure that what I'm explaining makes sense to them and it's at the level of tenure that they are within, so that they understand what they're doing so that they can do their job more efficiently, is very important. And sometimes that takes a lot of patience, right? I'm going to have to explain it a couple of times, a couple of different ways to make sure that they understand what I'm saying. And then relationship building goes hand in hand with communication. A lot of what Des talked about with our customers, we exchange pictures of our kids in their Halloween costumes with customers. We know when customers are having new babies, all of these things that are happening that are life events that you generally don't share with people that you're doing business with, is something that we do, which is something that I think really makes this job rewarding. And then just fostering individuality, making sure that I know each of my reps individually so that I know what makes them tick. How am I going to motivate them, and how do they operate, and what do I need to alter or adapt to make sure that when I'm talking to them, it resonates and they're going to stay motivated and they felt understood and they feel empowered to run their little business that is their territory the way that is going to make them the best IAE possible.
Thank you, Mandy. I'd like to believe that more and more companies are understanding that the folks coming out of college right now really need that individual experience and are learning and developing their leaders to promote that individuality in the people that report to them. I know that's really important at SHI, and I love that you put that out there. If I might just add a couple that I feel like are really important just from my perspective of, being sort of in management for a really long time, which is be motivated. Ask yourself, what is your why? Why are you going to work every day? I know I hear people talk all the time about, find something you're passionate about. And you know what? I'm going through that with my daughter right now, encouraging her to find her passion, but that's not always easy, especially at 19, 20, 21, 22. You don't maybe know everything that you're passionate about. So go out and explore, but go to work every day curious, ask questions, be motivated, and then refine your why. And if your why changes, go get that. You know, talk to your manager about how you can maybe bring some of those things into your current role, or seek out a role that really fits that why now. And then the other thing I would just say is be vulnerable. I am a very vulnerable leader. The folks that report to me on this call, I think will understand that I talk very openly about the things that I'm really good at. I talk openly about the things I'm really not good at. I lean on and collaborate with my extended leadership team unlimitedly. I can always learn from everyone. And I think those types of skills, flexibility, vulnerability, you know, willing to help and willing to be helped and coached, those are the things that are going to lead to success no matter what role you go down. So, you know, I'd encourage you guys to investigate those things in yourself. And so I just have one last question. I'm just gonna maybe go to two of you. I just talked about, you know, challenges, and I talked about, you know, being very vulnerable. Earlier, you guys mentioned a little bit about fear and overcoming challenges, and I'm really open with all that. I get afraid. I public speak, I do lots of things, and still there's days when I come to work and I'm like, ugh, yeah, I'm like really nervous about doing this. And nothing wrong with that. But I'm just curious, Mandy, I'm just gonna start with you. How have you addressed a challenge that you've had, or over, you know, being uncomfortable and getting through that or working through that? How have you done that? And then how does that change the way you interact with people, especially women within SHI? How do you then use that to help them when they seek guidance from you?
Yeah. So the one moment that sticks out for me is I went to the Rockefeller University in New York City. I was fresh into my AE role in New York City. I was by myself. I was 28, 29, youngest woman, only woman in the room. And I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Like, we're talking about a networking solution. Oh, okay. So I'm like letting the panic flood me, right? And then I just decide, you know what? I don't have an option here. I have to just crush it. I have to just show up. So I furiously took notes, made little asterisks of what I didn't understand, took the partner rep aside after the meeting and said, hey, can you clarify these couple things for me? I don't understand what that was. He took the time to set me straight. After that, we had 4 or 5 more meetings. Every time we went, I got a little bit more comfortable and a little bit more confident. And I really don't think those gentlemen had very high expectations, seeing this young woman walk in the door, like, oh, this is my rep. What is this, right? Because I don't know anything. And that was admitted, right? Like, I learn as I go. So I think what I really learned from that is you just let the fear like take you over for a second, and then it's okay. It's scary, but I'm gonna do it. So let's go and ask questions, right? It's just like Denise just said, admit when you're not sure. And maybe you don't admit it right there in the meeting, but if it's the right environment, like with your manager and with your other teammates, it's definitely okay to ask those questions and learn. I think that's the only way to build your confidence. And so for me, I like to coach not only women, but all of my reps that way, right? Stay curious, ask questions, because if you don't, you won't know. But also, it could be the same question that another woman wants to know the answer to, and she's also too afraid to ask. So take that step and do that for everybody. It's kind of how I like to look at it.
Yeah, I'd say be bold, but really asking questions when you don't know the answer shouldn't be considered bold. It should be considered human. And I ask questions still. I've been here for 25 years. I know my business inside and out, and every single day I get on the phone with at least one person and ask a whole bunch of questions, at least one. And so you should never feel like asking a question is embarrassing or something to be ashamed about, or that it's bold. It's just human. All right, Des, I'm going to end it here with you. Why don't you give me your answer to that same question? Did we lose Des?
Sorry, I was muted.
That's okay.
So, you know, I mentioned earlier, I came from a fashion background, right? I was in that industry for 10 years. So I went from a female-dominated customer base to a male-dominated one, right? So that was a challenge for me. First, I was so out of my comfort zone at first. You know, I would say about 95% of the time when I was cold calling, it was to male contacts, and that intimidated me. I didn't want to come across as quote unquote that dumb sales lady, right? So I really had to get out of my head and be more comfortable with the uncomfortable. And with the support of my female leader, who is on this call, Mandy, she gave me fantastic advice. She said, hey, there is another human, like we said earlier before. They aren't above you. You are not expected to know everything. And just to touch on like what we were saying earlier, as women, we always feel like we have to have the answers and to prove our worth. At times, that's an additional load to carry in your day-to-day. So we have to learn to create an equal playing field in our own minds and use that confidence to know that we are worth it and that we are on the same playing field as everybody else. So when I advise, my other female, team members, I try to tell them to do the same. It doesn't matter who you're speaking with, you have a valuable message to offer.
Thank you, Des. I love that message. And that's, I live and die by that. We are all human beings. We all deserve respect and you all have value. And it's okay to not know. I stand up in front of large audiences and say, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but I'll go look it up and I will let you know. That is okay. It's actually what will keep you going up in your career. So ladies, I can't thank you enough for sharing all of that with us. And I think before we just kind of turn it over to potentially questions, I want to spend a few minutes, if it's okay, talking about some of the resources and, sort of groups that SHI offers around not just, women in IT, but also just diversity, equity, and inclusion in general. And so it's really interesting timing, as just this week I was talking to Ty, our CEO, and we've been thoughtfully planning on how do we increase our presence around diversity, equity, and inclusion. We've had a group of people who have been managing, if you will, to our diversity for years and years and years. But it is really super clear that we need to make more of an investment in that, not only for our internal employees, but also for our customers. And so just this week, or actually, I guess I should say just last week, she notified me of her intention to move a really well-respected person within this company into a new role, developing and expanding upon our diversity, equity, and inclusion practice. So that just gave me the chills. I loved to hear that. And so there's going to be a lot more resources around those things, including not just enablement and training, but employee resource groups and other activities that will promote DEI within SHI and out into the community and to all our customers too. And so I'm really excited about what's to come with that initiative. In addition to that, we have our Wish Board, which is it's a women-centered group within SHI, although it's not exclusively for women. And the idea there is just to connect and celebrate diversity of women in the IT field. And we have had lots of different types of events. Sometimes it's, pajama day, sometimes it's speakers like Abby Wambach, sometimes it's community service. It just depends on the month. But there's a lot of really great support there and a lot of really good connection with women, not just within SHI, but all throughout the partner community as well. And that really helps to form a really nice network for your career. So if it's something that you're interested in, that would be something available to you here at SHI. And then of course we have lots and lots of things that are just fun: board game club, book club, knitting club. There's so many now. I don't even know that. Sometimes I hear people saying things. I'm like, we have that. I feel like I'm the most out of touch long-term employee at SHI potentially. We have a Toastmasters chapter. So if public speaking is something that you're really afraid of, you have a nice safe place to really practice those skills. And really, there's just like, we have a basketball hoop outside in the parking lot that gets used quite often. We have gyms at SHI. People play volleyball outside at lunchtime. There's a lot of really good connection on that just personal level that is not around work, the work task, if you will. It's about connecting as human beings. And so we offer a lot of, different areas to explore creating friendships and networks within SHI that don't actually require you sitting at your desk and learning a skill. And so all of those things, I think, kind of come together to form a really nice environment with which to explore a career. So we really do hope you'll consider those things when thinking about potentially having a career at SHI. So the last thing I just want to say is, you've heard us talk a lot about culture, and you can tell that all of us are very passionate about SHI. And there's reasons for that. And hopefully some of that came through. We are what you see is what you get type of organization. The senior leadership, like me, are very, very approachable. It's a very different community than most companies. And in fact, I find, and certainly is the case for me as a senior executive and in the IT space, that I am very often talking to men, mostly male peers at my level. And I find that I take them off guard quite a bit because I am approachable. I am not stuffy. Who I am in my personal life is who I bring to every meeting. I joke around a lot. I am just who I am. And that tends to be the way it is across the board at SHI, which is something that I really value, because I want to work with other human beings who are real, authentic, and vulnerable, not with politically correct, self-motivated peers. And so that is something that's just really has spoken to me throughout my career at SHI. And hopefully if that's something that's important to you, then we've put that out there for you to see, and you'll consider coming to work with us, because we would love to have you. And I think with that, I'd like to just maybe turn it over for some questions. I know we covered a lot. I think you can probably tell we could go on for a week between the four of us. There's a lot to say, and we are very passionate and very excited and enthusiastic about what we do every day and who we do it with and who we support in terms of customers. But I would love to entertain a few questions, and I'm sure the panel would as well, if there's any out there.
That was amazing. Thank you, ladies. Very inspiring. I think we do have a question. Christine?
Yeah, hello. Hi, I'm Christine. I am an aspiring communication major, so this all kind of ties into this. I have a question. So what is a typical day or week here?
Okay. So I'm going to ask you a clarifying question, and then I'll figure out who's the right person to present, because certainly my typical day is probably not the normal typical day, although mine involves dogs barking and doorbells ringing and delivery food and all of that stuff. But certainly the things that I do at my level are probably not the things that the normal employee would be doing in SHI. So you said you are a communications major. So are you looking to understand the things that a communications person at SHI would be doing, or do you want to know what the panelists do day to day? Or a little of both?
Sure. I mean, like, okay. Overall, like,
Oh.
Also like the dynamic too.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to ask Jess to answer that. I think Jess is going to be a great person to answer that question. So Jess, do you have any feedback from Christine?
Sure. Yeah, so I would say you are in the specific inside account executive role, right? You are building out your own book of business. So you are sort of, you're doing this by yourself, but you're on a team, right? So you have peers that are around you that are doing the same thing as you day in and day out that will sort of, help you feed off of them to a certain degree. Every day we're looking for our reps to create and build new relationships with customers. And they're doing that by picking up the phone, right? And trying to connect with customers to understand what their technology needs are and how SHI can come into play and help them. So our reps are making those phone calls, and they're getting those opportunities, and they're working on building out quotes for the customer. So they're working internally on stuff. They're sending quotes to the customer. They're hopefully getting the orders, they're placing the order, and then kind of following up, right? So it's not just a one and done type of sale. They are really working to build a rapport with that customer so that it continues that relationship where your first sale might be something small, and then it turns into a bigger project down the line. And then of course, you are constantly working with your manager, right? We're always available to our reps. We meet with our reps on a weekly basis. We talk to them all the time. Our reps are talking to one another. Like right now, obviously, now that we're doing it virtually, it's all kind of like a lot of IM chatter and video chatting, but it's happening and it's all day long.
Yeah. Can I just add fun though too? Because I laugh a ton during my day. Like, I mean, just a lot we laugh. And so, and two, when we're in the office, we have lunch together, you might take a walk with somebody. I mean, there's a lot of personal connection going on throughout the day as well. And I don't think that's to be overlooked because, you know, for me especially when you have, you know, tasks or whatever your tasks are all day, it is really important to have a little bit of fun in between that and to let it go a little bit and to connect with somebody on that personal level. So I think that's really important too. And you can kind of tell, especially these three women, that they have a really great personal connection too, as well as a colleague connection. Christine, thank you for the great question. Anyone else?
Feel free to put it in the chat if you don't
Yes.
feel comfortable unmuting.
And I'd like to say too, that we're happy to answer questions after the fact. So if there's something that you are thinking about, but you don't know how to formulate it into a question right now, Jacob, like you just said, it's a lot to absorb. Please feel free to continue to consider that. And if you have questions that come up after the fact, we are happy to entertain those. And I'm assuming that we can have those sent to us through Rutgers career engagement.
Yes. Yep, I'll connect with Gary and we could certainly do follow-up.
And Jacob, a special shout out to you for your profile picture, which made me chuckle. I loved it. So good on you for being creative. All right. Any other questions for us? All right. Well, we're here for you. If you have any, just let us know. And we're excited. Thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I have a very, very special place in my heart for the Rutgers community. I always will. And it is just an absolute honor to be able to talk to you guys all today. So let us know what we can do for you as you guys decide what is next in your career.
Thank you. And we appreciate you all being here. Again, it was very informative, very inspiring. We appreciate the insight. And I'll certainly follow up. We appreciate your connection with Rutgers and of course, considering our Starlit Nights.